I was working the night shift at a train station in Brussels when this American woman marched up to my counter at 11:30 at night. She slammed her phone down and said she needed help immediately. I looked up. The station was almost empty. Just a few travelers waiting quietly for late trains. She wanted me to call her hotel. Right now, she said her booking was wrong and someone needed to fix it. I explained that the train station staff don't call hotels for passengers. We sell tickets. That's it. She stared at me like I just told her the earth was flat. She said back home any service worker would help her with this. I suggested she call the hotel herself. She said her phone wasn't working internationally even though she was literally holding it and showing me screenshots. I pointed to the payphone across the hall. She asked why I was being so difficult. Another customer came up behind her. She didn't move. In Belgium, we take turns seriously. You wait, you don't cut. You definitely don't camp at a counter arguing about things that aren't train tickets. But she kept going. She wanted me to understand that in America, customer service means actually serving the customer. I nodded. I agreed. Then I told her I serve train customers. She asked for my manager. I said he went home 4 hours ago. She asked when he'd be back. I said tomorrow at 6 in the morning. She could come back then if she wanted. Over the years, I've heard so many moments like this. If stories like these make you pause and laugh a little at the culture clash, you might want to stick around. She finally left. But not before saying this would never happen in the States. My coworker saw the whole thing. He worked in Vancouver for 2 years before moving to Belgium. He said this happens constantly. Americans abroad expect the same level of service they get at home. Everywhere. All the time. Even in places where that just isn't how things work. He told me about a guy in Canada who got upset because a government office worker wouldn't help him print documents. The office was for passport renewals. They don't have public printers. The guy said back in Arizona any office would help him. My coworker said, sure, maybe in Arizona, but you're in Canada now. I've collected dozens of these stories over the years. From friends who work in tourism, from hotel staff, from other train workers, even from Americans themselves who figured it out eventually. These aren't stories about bad people. They're stories about culture shock, about expectations not matching reality, about that moment when someone realizes the world runs differently than home. And sometimes that realization doesn't come easy. The funniest part is always the same. The confusion, the frustration, the genuine belief that someone somewhere is just refusing to help out of spite, when really it's just a different system, a different set of rules, a different normal. Let me walk you through some of the best ones. My cousin worked front desk at a boutique hotel in Paris for 3 years. Small place, 20 rooms, very French, quiet, elegant, no lobby bar, no concierge desk, just a front desk and a breakfast room. One morning, an American couple checked in early. They asked where the concierge was. My cousin said there wasn't one. The hotel was too small. The husband looked confused. He said every hotel has a concierge. My cousin explained that in France, many small hotels don't. The wife asked then who helps with reservations. My cousin said guests usually handle their own dinner bookings. The husband said, that's ridiculous. How is anyone supposed to know the good restaurants? My cousin offered a printed list of nearby places. The wife said she didn't want a list. She wanted someone to call and make a reservation for them. In English. For that evening. At a Michelin star place, if possible. My cousin said she couldn't do that. Her job was checking people in and out, not making restaurant calls. The husband asked what kind of hotel doesn't help its guests. My cousin said a small French one. They asked to speak to a manager. My cousin was the manager. They asked who owned the place. She said a family that lived in Lyon. They asked for the family's number. She said no. The couple left bad reviews online, saying the staff refused to provide basic services. A friend in Amsterdam told me something similar. He works at a cafe near the museums. Tiny spot, 4 tables, 1 worker per shift. An American came in and ordered coffee, then asked if someone could watch his bags while he went to the restroom. My friend said no. He was alone. He couldn't leave the counter. The guy said it would just be 2 minutes. My friend said he still couldn't. The guy got annoyed. He said back home, coffee shop workers watch bags all the time. My friend said maybe in America, but not here. If you leave bags unattended in Amsterdam, especially near tourist areas, people call the police. It's a security thing. The guy said that was paranoid. My friend shrugged. The guy took his bags to the restroom. When he came back, he complained that European service was cold. I heard another one from a woman who worked at a pharmacy in Munich. An American man came in asking for help finding a specific snack. She told him pharmacies in Germany only sell medical supplies and some personal care items, not snacks. He said the sign outside said drugstore. She explained that European drugstores and American drugstores are different. He said that was confusing. Why call it a drugstore then? She said because it sells drugs, medicine. He asked where he could find snacks. She said a supermarket. He asked if she could tell him where the nearest one was. She gave him directions. He asked if she could walk him there because he didn't speak German. She said she was working and couldn't leave. He said this was terrible customer service. She suggested he use his phone for maps. He left upset. Came back 20 minutes later. Said he found the supermarket, but nobody there spoke English either. Asked again if someone from the pharmacy could come translate for him. She said no. He said in America workers go the extra mile. She said in Germany workers do their job. That's the mile. Another story came from a guy who worked at a train ticket office in Italy. An American asked him to help plan an entire 2-week trip across Europe. Train routes, hotel suggestions, sightseeing tips, the whole thing. He said he only sold train tickets. She said, "But you must know the routes." He said, "Sure, for Italy." She wanted advice for 7 countries. He told her to buy a guidebook or check travel websites. She said she didn't want to do research. That's why she was asking him. He said he wasn't a travel agent. She said she'd never been somewhere where workers weren't helpful. He suggested she visit an actual travel agency. She said those don't exist anymore. He said they absolutely do in Italy. She asked where. He gave her an address. She asked if he could call them for her. He said no, my brother lived in Spain for a year. He said he watched Americans constantly get frustrated with Diane workers. One time at a grocery store, a woman asked a shelf stocker where the peanut butter was. The guy said he didn't know. She asked how he didn't know. He said he just stocked shelves. He didn't memorize the whole store. She said in America, workers always help customers find things. He said in Spain, you walk around and look. She said that was inefficient. He said it was exercise. The same thing happened at a post office in Barcelona. An American wanted help packaging a box. The postal workers said they didn't offer packaging services, just shipping. The American said that didn't make sense. How do people ship things then? The worker said they package it at home. The American said, what if you don't have materials? The worker pointed to a store across the street that sold boxes and tape. The American said this was the most inconvenient system he'd ever seen. The worker said it worked fine for 40 million Spaniards. I think the disconnect comes from different definitions of service. In America, service often means convenience. Workers help with anything adjacent to their job. In Europe, service means doing your specific job well. You don't expect extra. You don't ask for extra. And when Americans do ask, they're genuinely confused why the answer is no. That gap between what one culture expects and what another delivers is kind of the heart of these stories. And honestly, it's why I started collecting them. I worked at a tourist information booth in Vienna for 2 summers. We offered maps, walking tour brochures, basic directions, all in multiple languages, including English. What we didn't offer was personal translation services. But that didn't stop people from asking. An American man came up once with a restaurant menu printed from a website. In German. He asked me to translate the whole thing. I explained that wasn't our service. We gave information about Vienna. Not translation help. He said he just needed to know what the food was. I said the restaurant probably had an English menu. He said he wanted to know now before going. I suggested Google Translate. He said that wasn't accurate. I said then he should try the restaurant. He said I was being unhelpful. He stood there waiting. Like if he waited long enough, I'd change my mind. I helped the next person in line. He finally left. My supervisor told me this happened weekly. People assume tourist information means solve all my tourist problems. She once had someone ask her to call their credit card company in America to dispute a charge. The person said they couldn't call internationally. My supervisor said neither could we from the booth phone. The person asked what they were supposed to do. My supervisor said find a phone that worked. The person said that wasn't helpful. My supervisor said it was accurate though. A similar thing happened to my friend in Copenhagen. She worked at a museum ticket desk. An American couple came up speaking very slow and very loud English, asking for tickets. She responded in perfect English, gave them tickets. They walked away, then came back 10 minutes later asking her to translate Danish exhibit descriptions for them. She said the museum offered audio guides in English. They said those cost extra. She said yes, $3. They said that was the principle. Why should they pay extra? She said because translation costs money. They said the museum should just write everything in English. She said it was a Danish museum in Denmark. They asked if she could just quickly translate a few plaques. She said no, that wasn't her job. They said it would take 2 minutes. She said she had a line of people waiting to buy tickets. They said those people could wait. She said no, they couldn't. They left annoyed. Another friend worked at a train platform help desk in Switzerland. His job was answering questions about departures and track changes. An American woman asked him to call her daughter in the US and tell her what time she'd arrive in Zurich. He said he couldn't make international personal calls from the desk. She said, why not? He said, because it wasn't allowed. She said her phone was dead. He said she could charge it or use a payphone. She said payphones were ancient. He said Switzerland still had them. She said nobody used those anymore. He said she could. She insisted someone should help her. He said he couldn't. She said this was an emergency. He asked what the emergency was. She said her daughter was worried. He said that wasn't an emergency. She said it was to her. He said okay, but it still wasn't his job. She asked who she could complain to. He said customer service. She asked where that was. He pointed to a sign. She asked if he could walk her there. He said no. She said Europeans were cold. My roommate in college was from Portugal. She told me about working at a beach resort in the Algarve. Americans would constantly ask her to translate conversations with local vendors. At markets, at restaurants, at taxi stands, she'd explain she was a resort activities coordinator, not a translator. They'd say, but you speak English and Portuguese. She'd say yes, but that's not my job. They'd say it would really help them out. She'd say she was working. They'd say it would only take a minute. She'd say she had other guests waiting. They'd say those guests could wait. One guy followed her for 15 minutes, asking her to help him negotiate a lower price at a surf shop. She kept saying no. He kept asking. Finally, she stopped and asked him if he'd follow a hotel worker around in America, asking them to negotiate his shopping. He said if they spoke the language, he would. She said that was wild. He didn't see the problem. I heard another story from a guy in Prague. He worked at a hostel. An American asked him to call a restaurant and change her reservation. She'd already booked it herself online. She just wanted a different time. He said she should call them herself. She said she didn't speak Czech. He said the restaurant spoke English. She said she didn't want to deal with it. He said then she should keep her original time. She said he was being difficult. He said he had 20 other guests to help. She said it was one phone call. He said exactly so she could do it. She asked for the manager. He said the manager would say the same thing. She called anyway. The manager said the same thing. The pattern was always identical. Someone asks for help outside normal services. Gets told no. Doesn't accept no. Escalates. Then complains about rudeness. I think Americans are used to workers having flexibility. In Europe, jobs are more defined. If it's not in your role, you don't do it. Not because you're mean, because that's how the system works. My friend worked at a clothing store in Stockholm. Small boutique. Designer stuff. One afternoon, an American woman came in and started pulling clothes off the racks. She piled them on the counter and asked if someone could hold them while she went to lunch. My friend said no. They didn't offer hold services. The woman said she wanted to come back later and try everything on. My friend said that was fine, but she couldn't leave clothes at the counter. The woman said, why not? My friend said, because they needed the space and other customers might want those items. The woman said, in America, stores hold things all the time. My friend said this wasn't America. The woman said that was obvious. My friend asked if she wanted to try things now. The woman said no. She was hungry. My friend said then she should come back when she was ready. The woman asked what if the items sold. My friend said that could happen. The woman said that wasn't fair. My friend said it was first come, first served. The woman left the pile and walked out. My friend put everything back. She came back 2 hours later, asked where her clothes were. My friend said she'd returned them to the racks. The woman got upset, said she'd told her she was coming back. My friend said yes, but she didn't hold items. The woman said this was terrible service. My friend said it was store policy. The woman asked to speak to the owner. My friend said the owner would say the same thing. The woman said she'd never shop there again. My friend said okay. Another story came from Berlin. My colleague's girlfriend worked at an electronics store. An American man bought a laptop, used it for 10 days, then came back saying he didn't like it and wanted a refund. She explained that German consumer law allows returns for online purchases, but in-store purchases are different. Once you open electronics, you can't return them unless they're defective. He said the laptop was fine, he just didn't like the keyboard. She said that wasn't grounds for a return. He said in America you can return anything within 30 days. She said German law was different. He said that was anti-consumer. She said it prevented people from using products, then returning them. He said he barely used it. She said he used it for 10 days. He asked for a manager. The manager said the same thing. He got angry, said this would never fly in America. The manager said, good thing we're in Germany then. He left threatening to call his credit card company. My colleague said he did. The credit card company told him the same thing. I heard a similar one from Dublin. A woman working at a bookstore had an American ask if he could return a book after reading it. She said no. He said he didn't like it. She said that wasn't how books worked. He said some US bookstores let you return books if you're unsatisfied. She said Irish bookstores didn't. He said that seemed wrong. She said you can't read an entire book, then return it. He said why not? You can return movies. She said you can't watch a movie, then return it either. He said streaming services let you watch and cancel. She said that's a subscription, not a purchase. He didn't see the difference. Another friend in Brussels told me about a customer at a furniture store who bought a chair, had it for 3 months, then tried to return it because she was moving and it didn't fit her new apartment. The store said no. She said the chair was in perfect condition. They said that didn't matter. She'd used it for 3 months. She said barely. They said the return window was 2 weeks and only for defects. She said American furniture stores are more flexible. They said Belgian ones weren't. She asked why Europe was so strict. They said because otherwise people would treat stores like free furniture rentals. My brother saw something similar in a grocery store in Portugal. An American tried to return opened food. Said she didn't like the taste. The cashier said you can't return food you've eaten. She said she only tried 1 bite. The cashier said, that's eating. She said in America grocery stores take back anything. The cashier said this was Portugal. She said she wanted store credit at least. The cashier said no. She said this was wasteful. The cashier said then she should choose more carefully next time. The most extreme one I heard was from Rome. A guy working at a shoe store had an American buy expensive leather boots, wear them outside for a week, then return them saying they hurt his feet. The store said you can't return worn shoes. He said they were defective. The store said they weren't defective. He just didn't break them in properly. He said that meant they were defective. The store said no, it meant they were leather. Leather needs breaking in. He said that should be explained at purchase. The store said it's common knowledge. He said not in America. The store said maybe Americans don't buy leather shoes then. He demanded a refund. The store refused. He left bad reviews saying the store sold uncomfortable shoes and refused to fix the problem. I think the core issue is America has very consumer-friendly return policies. Europe doesn't. Not because Europe hates customers, but because the laws are different. Stores follow the laws. When Americans push back expecting American rules, they're not being unreasonable from their perspective. But they're still not getting refunds. I was back at that train station in Brussels a few months after the hotel phone call incident. Different shift, different day. An American man came up and asked if I could help him file a police report. I asked what happened. He said someone pickpocketed his wallet. I said I was sorry, but he needed to go to the police station. He asked if I could call them for him. I said the police don't come for reports. You go to them. He said that seemed backwards. I said that's how it works in Belgium. He asked where the station was. I gave him directions. He asked if anyone here spoke English. I said probably. He asked if I was sure. I said I wasn't. He asked what he was supposed to do if they didn't. I said figure it out. He stood there looking at me, waiting for more, for me to offer to walk him there, to call ahead, to translate, something. I helped the next person in line. He eventually left. My coworker said, Americans always expect someone to solve their problems, not because they're entitled, but because that's how things work at home. Someone always helps. There's always a system, a hotline, a manager, a person whose job is fixing your specific issue. In Europe, you fix your own problems. You figure things out. You adapt. And when you can't, someone might help. But they're not required to. It's not in their job description. It's not their responsibility. And expecting it to be makes you the confused one, not them. Every one of these moments tells the same quiet truth. The world doesn't run on a single playbook. If that fascinates you, like it does me, this channel's full of it. These stories keep coming. Every tourist season, every summer, every holiday. Americans arrive expecting American rules, then get shocked when the rules are different. Some adapt quickly, some struggle, some never quite figure it out. But they all eventually learn the same lesson. The world doesn't run on American customer service standards, and demanding that it does won't change anything. I've collected probably 50 of these stories now, from service workers across a dozen countries. They're all slight variations of the same theme. Someone asks for help outside normal services, gets told no, doesn't understand why, then blames the worker instead of the system. It's not malicious on either side. It's just different expectations colliding, different normals crashing into each other. And the moment when someone realizes their normal isn't everyone's normal. That's the story. That's always the story. And trust me, these stories never stop coming. Every week there's a new one. Every month another confused traveler expecting rules that don't exist. It's endless. It's predictable. And it's always just a little bit funny.